And I talk a little bit to introduce you as soon as we go live. All right, so this is Relax Teams. This is our monthly lunch and learn. Today we're having discussions on topics related to children and elderly, not necessarily in the same topics, but children and elderly. And to start it all off, we have a wonderful nonprofit organization. I know a ton about them. I've been to their facilities. A great cause here. And without any further ado, Jen, do you want to share a little bit about your organization, what they do?
I'd love to. Thank you, Dennis. So my name is Jen Unger. I work for the Center for Great Expectations located in Somerset. We have multiple programs. There's a long-term residential Mommy and Me program for adult women who have a primary substance use disorder, who are pregnant or parenting children up to the age of 5. There's an adolescent residential program that we have as well for moms who are pregnant and parenting and have homelessness or housing insecurity. We have an intensive outpatient program and a supportive housing program, and the intensive outpatient program is located in New Brunswick. So I am a licensed clinical social worker and a licensed clinical drug and alcohol counselor and a certified clinical supervisor. And one of the great things about the Center for Great Expectations is we have what we call a continuum of care, in that when our residents or clients are transitioning from one level of care to another, there is a smooth transition from people who are within the organization who can offer that warm handoff. So it's a very mission-driven organization. Our president, CEO, founder, Peg Wright, established the organization in 1998. And it has grown to what it is today with over 100 employees and multiple programs going from Somerset, New Jersey up to Newark, New Jersey. There's multiple programs. And so maybe I'll pause there with just an overview.
Excellent, very good. And just so in case you're looking, we did have an issue. I saw the live stream is not live streaming, so this recording will be live streamed as soon as it is over. So apologize for that if anyone's looking and concerned. I just got the notification that it wasn't live streamed, but we will live stream the entire recording in its entirety. So that's excellent. So with that, we'll start our presentation. It's a great group. It's a great place. If you get the chance to help the center, it just has done wonderful things. I know it evolved from that little Nazareth house right there in Somerville, and it's just a huge help in the entire state now. It's just great. So with that said, we will start off with George. You want to introduce yourself? Tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. Hi. Thank you. So yes, my name is George. My company is called Caring Transitions, and we are senior relocation specialists. Any psychiatrist will tell you that the two most stressful events in a person's life are divorce and selling a home. Personally, I don't know a lot about divorce, fortunately, I guess, but I do know a little bit about the sale of a home, which is a challenging endeavor for anyone. But for senior citizens, it can be extra tough. So Caring Transitions, we're an experienced team of certified professionals. We're trained to anticipate the needs and concerns of seniors who are facing a big move.
Next up, we have Tracy.
Good afternoon, everybody. Tracy Spiaggia with Slingshot Health Coaching. I am a functional nutrition and lifestyle practitioner and brain health specialist working with individuals and ideally families who struggle with mental health challenges. What I add to this really important conversation is a unique piece in that we do a deep dive into that person's entire life story, mining for potential triggers and looking for common threads that will lead us to answering the question, how in the world did this person end up in this situation where they're suffering to the extent that they are. And then we craft a very unique, customized plan, not just for the person, but ideally for the entire family to get involved and to not only support their loved one who's struggling, but really level up the way the entire home is living in terms of diet, sleep, movement, thought life, communication, really just kind of leaning heavily into adding communication skills so relationships can blossom, and discovering the uniqueness of each person in that family, in both, in body, mind, and in spirit, so that all the needs are met. And then typically those symptoms will alleviate because they've been met in a very holistic way. My office is in Frenchtown. I see people both in person and virtually. And yeah, that's me.
Excellent. And next up, we have Rochelle. Rochelle, you want to tell everyone what it is you do?
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Dennis. My name is Rochelle DiCrescenzo. I'm a physical therapist, and I've been practicing for about almost 18 years. And I've worked with adolescents through much older adults in my career. I started out working with doing outpatient orthopedics and working with like I said, kids and adults and older adults in the full spectrum of different injuries. And then I went on to work specifically with strictly older adults in their homes. And so really kind of the older adult, I would say the second half of my practice when I was doing that job, the average age of our clients is probably 75 years old plus. So a lot of older adults. And our goal always there was to keep them functional and moving in their home and safe. And in 2019, I opened my own practice. And right now what I do is I specialize in a type of treatment called John Barnes myofascial release. So it's a holistic type of treatment, a hands-on treatment that looks at and works with the fascial system of our body. So I'm going to talk about later when we get to that part of the talk is just how working and engaging with the fascial system, we can prevent injuries in both children and older adults.
Yeah, I know that's important. I know it happens all the time. So excellent. And then finally, we'll come back to Jen with what your role is within the Center for Great Expectations.
My role within the Center for Great Expectations is the clinical director. I was recently promoted to that position. I was the program manager of the adult residential program. So now I oversee the clinical programs.
Excellent. Very nice. So we'll come back to Rochelle. Rochelle, do you want to talk a little bit about why you're so passionate about this topic and what you've been able to do for the elderly?
Yeah, sure. So like I said, I wanted to talk a little bit about both children and adults, and just in general, how engaging with the fascial system can help to prevent injury. So I'm going to give a brief overview of the fascial system, but before I do, why I kind of want to talk about both spectrums. I looked up a couple of stats. So in the U.S., there's 30 million children and teens that participate in organized sports, and 3.5 million of those children have injuries every year. And most of those injuries are sprains and strains, which can really be prevented a lot of times. And with the elderly, a fact from back in 2019, so not that long ago, there was 3 million ER visits in adults that were 65 and older for falls. And of those 3 million ER visits, 34,000 deaths. Falls is the number one cause of injury deaths for adults 65 plus. So, injuries, keeping yourself healthy and your fascial system moving well is really important. So knowing those facts and that it's important to prevent injury, just to kind of back up a little bit. So in our bodies, we have a system called the fascial system. It's a three-dimensional connective tissue web that runs continuous from head to toe, front to back, side to side. And it's a system that basically holds us all together, holds all of our other systems together, our muscular system, our nervous system, our circulatory system. It's like the architecture of our body. And if we think of it like this little ball here, the system should glide and move freely and smoothly as we move. But often what happens is we'll get restrictions in that web, in the structure. And if we get a restriction, then that web doesn't quite move the way it needs to. And it restricts the things around it that need to do what they do. So if if it should move freely and allow our muscles to be able to perform certain activities, let's say, then we're in good shape. But when we get restrictions from different things, and restrictions can be from falls, from all different types of injuries, from different traumas. And the trauma doesn't have to be a physical trauma; it can be an emotional trauma as well. So undue stress is just one example, or an actual like big life event like the stress or the trauma of a divorce or the trauma of a loss of a loved one. Those things kind of get stuck in our bodies and cause tightness and restrictions in our fascia. And those restrictions then can and often do wind up becoming physical symptoms and physical limitations. So that older adult that falls in older adults is multifactorial. There's so many things that can contribute to falls in older adults. Poor vision, polypharmacy, such as being on way too many medications, low light in their home, safety issues. There's so many things that can cause falls with older adults. But you can imagine if they have those things, like they don't have good vision, their balance is poor, their home isn't as safe as they need to be. And now on top of it, their bodies are tight and non-pliable. When they go to trip, if they trip or they stumble on something, they have no recourse to catch themselves. So the fall actually happens instead of being able to catch themselves and not fall. So being able to have that fascial system that's open and free and lets your body move is really important. And the same thing with kids, especially now, kids younger and younger are being, are doing sports like very specific, year round, the same sport. And those overuse injuries can cause, overusing the same body part over and over again can really cause injury to the child. So keeping them mobile and balanced is super important. So when I work with my clients, whether they're children, adolescents, or older adults, we're looking at the whole system, the whole body. How is it moving? How is it functioning? And making sure that their body can move and do the things that it needs to do to prevent injury. And through working hands-on in the office, and then a very specific individualized home program where they work on these same types of things at home to open up their fascial system and keep them as movable and pliable and flexible as possible is really, really important to what I do with my patients.
Excellent. Very good. And then Jen, do you want to come back and talk a little bit more about the specifics of your role?
Absolutely. Thank you. So at the Center for Great Expectations, we talk about a holistic trauma-informed approach. There was a study called the ACE study, which is Adverse Childhood Experiences. And it was a 10-question study at the back when it was created in the late 90s. And it speaks about these different things: neglect, it could be divorce, abuse, traumas that happen to people. And the higher the ACE score, the higher the severity of a range of different things that can happen. Mental health diagnoses, diabetes, physical health conditions, obesity, all a range of different things that can happen based on what has happened to you before the age of 18. So we use the ACE score and the ACE study and educate our clients about that and how trauma impacts the body today, even if it happened many, many years ago. And when you come into the Center for Great Expectations, it's a felt sense of cohesion, of safety. There's like a breath of air that you can breathe. Many times our clients are coming to us after being in multiple treatment centers. And, I could just quote somebody saying like, someone looked at my chart and just considers me a crazy crackhead, right? And so when I walk in here, I feel seen, I feel looked in the eye. Somebody is looking at me and seeing me as who I am. I have a name, I have a child, I have a purpose. And our team and our staff do that. There's supervision, there's support, there's guidance, because this work it's hard, it's rough. There's a lot that can come at you emotionally. And so just being a supportive, cohesive team really is this kind of parallel process for the clients watch us of how we interact with each other, then the clients learn healthier relational patterns of interaction, and then the children are watching their parents. So it's this beautiful parallel process of rupture and repair in relational work that we do. And the typical length of stay is about 6 to 9 months. So it's practice and mess it up, and practice and mess it up. And our team and our staff really come together to work with them through the struggles that they're managing. Sometimes they have family involvement, other times they're more isolated. And so to build a communal sense of support within the community that they're going back to is also very integral to their ongoing support and success. So we try to work with them from all angles.
And I can attest to that, having walked in and going into your nursery and seeing that. I mean, you feel, it just feels like a magical place.
It does. And I think, we have the Child Development Center, Katie's Place, and I'm intentional about that language, right? Child Development Center. It's not daycare. When moms are in care from 8 to 3 o'clock with us in the program, the children are doing a lot of developmental work. And the manager there was a teacher in Newark for over 30 years. Truly, the work that the children are getting to while mom is doing the work is incredible to watch. So thank you for saying that.
It is. It definitely is. Excellent. And next up, we have Tracy.
That was so fabulous, Jen. This isn't the first time I've heard you present on the center and the wonderful work that you're all doing. And I have to tell you, like, my blood pressure goes up from joy. Like, it's just so beautiful what you're doing. And truthfully, it's very, very similar to the work that I do in my practice but the one piece that's unique is the attention and really deep dive into the biology of the person to help to help support them on a foundational level in terms of these biological necessities in order for us to heal. So you referenced the ACE study. That's one of the assessments in my intake work every time a new client signs up. And I also lean into the results of that test to know, okay, how likely is this person in front of me, be it a tween, a teen, a young adult, or a full-blown adult, how likely, based on that study, are they to wrestle with physical ailment as a result of trauma being stuck in the body? I mean, the truth is, all of us so far are all really, I see us as helpers and healers on an assembly line in this life, where people who are suffering can make stops all along the way. There's room and proper place for all of us in the work that we do, and it's so symbiotic and it's so holistically beautiful. So I would come in and support that person, helping them understand. If we help people understand the why, instead of just giving a prescription per se, like, oh, you need to eat this diet, you need these many hours of sleep, you need this many minutes of movement. That's so authoritative, number one, which automatically, I believe, puts most people in a very defensive posture. Nobody likes to be told what to do. Instead, we like partnership and we like to maybe engage in new, scarier activities with somebody. So if you're an athlete and you're training for your sport, the coach doesn't, well, it depends on the coach, I would assume. I think a talented coach would edify and build up that player and build up their skills, and hopefully have the skills themselves and say, I used to play, let me show you this technique, let me show you this movement. It's very similar, where I stand alongside the people I work with, even inside my kitchen. I've just recently added family kitchen time and recipe preparation that are anti-inflammatory. So when you talk about working with clients who have myofascial restriction, or you're talking about trauma in centers like yours, Jen, their biology needs support in order for those detox pathways to open up, for intercellular nutrition levels to rise and to be held not just at RDA levels, which really indicate the presence of nutrition deficient driven disease or not. We're talking about what is termed functional levels, which mean optimal. The term functional is the space that I occupy in my practice. And it's not just necessarily bringing somebody to that baseline of you're alive, you're not dead. It's so much more than that. It's it's coming around them and helping them understand the interconnectedness between what you eat, how you move, how you sleep, the bitterness and anger you hold on to, how you relate to others, your ability to communicate, your passion at your work, your opportunities to be creative and expressive in the world, friendships that come and can you let them go? All of these things that make us human, right? It's what makes us human. So that's what is unique about the work that I do is there are, thank God, plenty of spaces that people can go as they struggle emotionally, relationally, what have you, to get that kind of talk therapy and other types of therapeutic skills in kind of managing emotions and relationships. But then there is a whole biology piece that I don't know is getting enough attention. The body needs that cellular support in order to then, let's say somebody like these clients that you see, Jen, I would say 100% of the time they have very congested livers because of all of the excitatory hormones that are constantly excreted due to the trauma situations they're in. And the liver has to deal with that. The liver has to deal with that raised cortisol and that high blood sugar, the dipping blood sugar, because food's not readily accessible. And what is accessible is dead food. So, the biology piece is super important in coming around a person to help them experience true holistic health so that they can be released into a future that really is untethered. So.
Excellent. Very nice. And then finally, we'll come back to George to talk about, your passion and the work you do.
Yeah, sure. Selling a home is a high stress and physically challenging transition for anyone. Because the family home is where one spends their decades settling into and raising a family. And like we often say, the memories run deep and the emotions oftentimes run high. So if you're a senior selling a home, or you're an adult child that's tasked with moving a senior parent, that simply adds another complexity to an already complex problem. Families today, you lead busy lives. You may not live in the same state as your parents. And with all that's going on in your life, you probably simply don't have the bandwidth to help mom and dad move in an organized and thoughtful fashion. And that's where Caring Transitions comes in. So we want to sell the house. And one of the first things we're presented with is, what are we going to do with all this stuff? This 50 years worth of stuff. There's closets full of old clothing, furniture. Can we sell it? Do we donate it? What do we do with it? What about all the stuff in the kitchen cabinets? Where does it all begin? And our suggestion is to hire a company, a caring or a senior move company. What our staff does is we will oversee all aspects of the move with you and your parents, and we help to arrange and declutter the home. We help seniors decide, choose what to downsize, what to keep, what to get rid of, what to donate, what to liquidate through an estate sale. We help them pack their belongings for the move. We help them unpack and arrange the new residence so that it's comfortable and it feels like home. We organize and run the estate sale for them. And even we coordinate the renovation of home repairs, all to get it prepped for sale. The most important thing that separates a senior relocation specialist from one of these other companies, such as a company that only does estate sales or a company that only cleans out your house, is we not only have the experience to facilitate the lifestyle transitions, but we also have the emotional expertise to assist seniors and their families through a very difficult transition. So in that regard, we facilitate not just the logistical aspects of moving seniors, but also the emotional aspects. And we handle that with great compassion and integrity. Every move is unique, and we take the time and effort to understand the needs of yourself as maybe the child and or the parents.
Yeah, no, George, I can tell you, Tess, I know, and you helped with me as we went through a lot of this with my mom, who just recently went through that, and it much more than anything, the transition, the loss of feeling of independence, the loss of that feeling of independence, the emotional pieces. You're just really great with that.
That's what we're here for, actually.
Excellent. I don't know that. I don't know where the noise is coming from, but we'll as far as going through, and then next up we have we're going to start. Oh, Jen, so you can go first for this next round. Well, as far as the follow-up question, what I wanted to say is, was there anything else that you wanted to comment on based on what others had mentioned, or if there's something else that you wanted to touch on in your particular role as it addresses?
Sure. I'm just really feeling the cohesion of all of the work that each of us do. It is mind, body, spirit in helping a wounded person heal. And we talk about wounded healers in social work, how we show up all in this work for different reasons, but we show up all in this work. And so how we can kind of really come together as different specialties, as different staff, teammates, from direct line staff, residential associates to, occupational therapists or different therapists for the physical body, because it's been wounded, and we know that we hold trauma in our bodies, and how can we express it? If it's not verbal, do we have other capacities to allow it out? So we do offer music and art and horticulture. And I got just maybe this can be a depiction of something coming full circle. There was a resident in our program who, she had her son with us, and in horticulture they had planted some plants, and there was a basil leaf that she made, and she sent me a picture of pesto. This is maybe 6 months after she left the program, and she had made pesto for her and her son's dinner that night that she learned how to do in the horticulture group while in our program prior. So just to be able to feed and nourish emotionally, physically, I think is just something that is able to come so full circle. Thank you.
Excellent. No, that's wonderful. And then Rochelle, do you want to follow up as far as comments on others, or elaborate on what you had mentioned earlier?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I just want to say basically kind of what Jen just said, how it really is all, coming together with all of us. So we all have a piece of this, especially, I spoke before about just, talking about injuries with children and older adults, but I did briefly mention that, a lot of times I work with clients and patients that do have a lot of trauma in their lives, and that the trauma lives in their body and has caused physical symptoms. And what's really beautiful about John Barnes myofascial release, which is really different than any other modality I've ever learned or know of as a therapist, is, Jen said sometimes it's not always, you can't always get the traumas out verbally. And she mentioned some of the other things that they use at the center. And what myofascial release does is it gets people to tune into their bodies. So when you experience trauma, a lot of times you basically dissociate from your body because you need to survive the situation. And when you dissociate from your body, you don't even know how to feel into your own body. You don't know what it means to live in your body. So one of the things I do with my patients is just to get them to start to feel their bodies, know what it is to be in their body, and to feel safe again in their body. So there's so much more to myofascial release than just the injury stuff that I spoke about before, which is what I was kind of focused on today. But then the trauma piece came up, and that's such an important part of what I do too. And it's, in order to, and again, it ties into what Tracy said too, because in order for your, Tracy works on the biology and the food part of your system, but in order for the food and the nutrients to get where they need to go in your body, your fascial system also needs to be open. Your body needs to be open. You need to release that trauma, those restrictions in your body, so it does all work together. And there's a wonderful book called The Body Keeps the Score. I know Tracy knows it. I'm sure Jen knows it. And it's written by a psychologist that speaks about how the body remembers everything. And it does, and we have to find ways to release it, whether it is through myofascial release work, through horticulture work, through art, through music, through therapy, whatever, like we were talking about before. But yeah, so I just, what I do ties into so much of what Jen was talking about, and also what Tracy was talking about as well, and goes way beyond just the injury piece of the stuff I spoke about earlier.
Understood. And George, coming back to you, obviously, with the elderlies making the transitions, their bodies have stored a ton. So you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. Yeah, as I mentioned, when it comes to the relocation of a senior or with anybody, it's the logistics, all the things we have to do that are involved, and then there is the emotional aspect of it, which oftentimes we tend to overlook that part of it. And what Caring Transitions does, what our job is, along with the logistics, is to take that home that the senior has raised a family in, spent their lifetime in, and to take the proper time and care to dispose of the home and the possessions with respect for the senior. It's very important, and it goes a tremendously long way in helping to relieve the stress.
Yes, it is so stressful, and it's funny. I always joke, raising parents is very difficult in this day and age, and it lands on so many people's shoulders our age.
Absolutely. Yep.
Excellent, George. Anything else you want to comment? You have a little more time.
Let's see. The other thing is, anybody can come in and take your household belongings, lay them out on a table, throw prices on them, and then bring people in to sell them. The senior relocation specialists, our team, we've got a skill set that's well suited to working with the elders. We understand the trends in senior living. We know the best resources for senior moves. We know who to call for the best values. Maybe you need landscaping done, or you need some repair work. And we can save you time and money on overpriced and unnecessary services. So the experienced hand on the wheel, I like to say, is what leads to peace of mind and a much smoother transition.
That's the name, huh?
Caring Transitions.
Next up, we have Tracy. You want to elaborate on Tracy, what you were mentioning and the cohesion with everyone?
Yeah, it really is. It is remarkable, the whole panel, how it's also interconnected, and it really holds a person's story so well. I love the story of Jen, of the horticulture piece and growing the basil, and then gifting her a skill set to appreciate the beauty of then turning that into something delicious to eat that's whole food and nutritious, and brings, I don't know if she did that maybe with her son, I would think so. So now you have this beautiful relational piece. I mean, food has so much power in it. It is, aside from sex, it's the most intimate thing we do with other people. We sit down and, if somebody's really passionate about cooking, I could spend days preparing, literally days preparing for holiday, marinating and thinking about the sides that complement the main course. And then when I prepare it and I set it in front of the people whom I love and watch them enjoy it, it brings so much joy to me. And not only do they enjoy it, but I know that for the most part, everything I prepare is incredibly nutritious. So I'm supporting their bodies as well. So the power in educating and inspiring people to let go of dead food, to let go of this idea that calories is simply just pouring gasoline in the car so it can go. Food for us is so much more than that. When you observe the animal kingdom, you don't see them eating outside of what is designed for them to consume in order to thrive. You don't see a fish flopping out of the water to go find a walnut. Like, you're just not going to see that. But we have access to everything. And we just have ways of allowing our lives to squeeze us so tightly that we go kind of off design. And when we go off design we trade one lie for another lie, like, oh, I'm too busy to cook. Let me just go through the drive-through. And perhaps that's true, but instead of kind of defaulting to what was easier in that moment, maybe kind of pausing to assess your life to say, is there other areas I need to take a look at to yield more time to get healthy food on the table? And the reason that's important is it really undergirds all of the work that everybody on this panel does. Because if somebody is in the care of George and is looking to make that humongous transfer, which is such a gigantic life milestone, very, very hard, I would imagine. And they're also on the standard American diet, perhaps they're obese and they're immobile and they're not able to kind of move about the house they want the way that they would like in order to gather their belongings the way that they would like, or they're sleepless because of their diet and lifestyle, and they've been up all night, and so they're irritable with this caring transition staff when they show up to do their work. I mean, I could go on for days with examples, but I know that you all get the point. It's just everybody's work on this panel is so interwoven and interconnected with the other. And it really just kind of highlights the bigger picture of everything we do matters. And it matters not, our choices don't matter just for us. It matters for those that we intersect with in our lives. Our food choices aren't happening in a silo. Our exercise and movement choices aren't happening in a silo. Our refusal to go to bed and put the technology down isn't happening in a silo. It ripples out into every aspect of our lives. And if we are going to do the really brave work of stemming the tide of generational trauma, like Jen is doing, we've got to get more serious and intentional about valuing and honoring this physical container that moves the soul about the world. So, we can do that soul work, which is the most holy, precious work in my view. But if we don't also store the body, then the ministry of that person's life is crippled because they're chronically inflamed, always feeling ill, very irritable, toxic on the inside. And then when disease presents itself, the way that the body, that's just the way the body operates. If we're out of its design, it will dis-ease. Then it only kind of brings to the surface all of those yucky emotions and experiences that are kind of, ping-ponging around in the body, because we've no bandwidth, we have no physiological bandwidth to handle the emotional stress that life will inevitably bring every single person. So it's a continuum, it's a continuum. There's never going to be one practitioner that will take one broken person and put them all back together. Like what's the egg that fell off the wall? There's not one person, it's a team. This is what being a human being is all about, is looking around you for love. And love shows up with, let me help you manage your finances better so that burden of financial stress can be lifted. Let me help you transition and organize your belongings in a respectful way. Let me help move that fascia so the things that are trapped in your body can actually finally exit and leave the body. Let me bring you into a space that is safe, truly safe. And so you say it's magical. What you mean is you feel love. That's what you feel in that space. It's the energy of love. It's so not magic. It's so love. And this is why we're all here in the first place, is to love others and to receive love. And that is impeded when we don't live with our design. So that's the last.
Excellent. And then in 2 minutes or less, what is your one thing that you want people to take away from your presentation here today?
2 minutes or less would be maybe do an honest assessment of the way that you are living, and be gentle with yourself, but at the same time be brave enough to self-confront and ask yourself this question: after I've taken a good, honest, hard survey of my lifestyle, what's the one thing? I'm not asking for 10 or 15. What's the one lifestyle choice that is your lowest piece of hanging fruit that you can act on, improve upon, and feel the win, and maybe then start to build some momentum towards a healthier way of being?
Excellent. Very good. And George, coming back to you, what is the one, 2 minutes or less, what is the one thing you want people to take away from here today?
Well, I would say just to consider, when you come to sell a house, you're going to find that you have to deal with a multitude of services. Perhaps there are repairs that have to be made. where do I take these clothes to be donated? I load my car up and take them to a Goodwill, only to find out that they don't accept this, whatever it is I have in my car. I deal with another company to do an estate sale. I deal with another company to clear out the house, a cleaning company to clean. It's a lot easier by working with a company like Caring Transitions, who handles all of those services. You would benefit from, number one, the experience that we have that I mentioned earlier, the coordination and the planning. We coordinate all this and plan it so it flows smoothly, handle the downsizing. Taking all that off your hands reduces an amazing amount of stress. We'll handle the unpacking and resettling. And finally, getting your house in tip-top shape so that it can be put on the market and sold, cleaning out the home, perhaps doing yard work, repairs, along with the estate sale and disposal of the leftover items. So my takeaway was, if you're selling your home, at least look into hiring a good senior relocation management company such as Caring Transitions.
And as a CPA, I can attest, if you're planning on, or your family, or you have someone trying, get rid of that home soon. The market is turning, so the time matters. So you will want George to help you. And then next up, we have Jen in 2 minutes or less. Can you tell me what's the one thing you want people to take away from here?
Sure. I'm going to read the mission statement of the Center for Great Expectations because I think it is a living, breathing thing. So, grounded in a spirituality that treasures the dignity of all, the Center for Great Expectations seeks to form a partnership with homeless, pregnant, and/or parenting women, adolescents, men, and their children in creating a safe place, a safe presence, and a safe path that enables clients to experience, choose, and maintain physical, psychological, social, and spiritual health for themselves, their children, and families. And so I think when we're talking about all of us, right? When we have healthy communities, healthy families, healthy children, healthy adults, it can speak to the greater good for all communities. So I would just like to drive home that we are doing this work. The website is cge-nj.org if you'd like to learn more information. Thank you.
Excellent. I want to thank you and your team for everything that you guys do. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
And then finally, Rochelle, 2 minutes or less. What is one thing you want to take and wrap up? And then we have plenty of time for questions if anyone in the audience has any questions they want to ask. So go ahead, Rochelle.
Yeah, I just want to say, to consider, I guess the one thing I want to say is just consider the fascial system, or try to remember that there's this thing in our body called the fascial system, and it affects every other system, and it can really have an effect on a lot. And to, again, it's not something that's studied very often, or it's being studied a lot more over the last 10 years or so, but in general, there's not a lot of studies on the fascial system, and it doesn't show up on x-rays or MRIs or CAT scans either. So that's why sometimes it's ignored by Western medicine. But I think what I want to say is just know that there's this other system in our body that can potentially have a key to what's going on that might be missed in other Western medicines, because it really allows for a much more holistic look at the whole body, not just holistic meaning the whole body, but holistic in mind, body, spirit. We really dive a lot deeper into the symptom that you're feeling. It's never just a symptom alone. That symptom is just the tip of the iceberg. So just to consider that, and to consider that there might be some other solutions out there.
Excellent. And when you mentioned, I know you've shared little tips on I've used with my wife when she has like a big knot in her back, and how you hold it for the 5 minutes, and she loves it.
Yeah.
Still trying to get her there to meet with you. So
Yeah, I hope so.
Excellent. Good. Any other questions or anything from anyone in the panel and the audience for the panel?
Yeah, Jen, I have a question for you. Is the center accepting volunteers again yet?
Yes. So slowly but surely, Noreen Whittemore she oversees the volunteer department. And yes, slowly but surely people are coming back in.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions? No? Well, thank you so much to all our panelists, the wonderful job that everyone's done, and the wonderful work you all do. It's amazing when you bring a team together, how much people work on the same, differently, but together. So it's just wonderful. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.